And you did bring up Warner Brothers. I did want to get to that now in terms of really what was, I can't say it was stunning news because in some ways I think based on what I've learned at this point, it was a surprise to Warner Brothers, but perhaps not a complete surprise in the sense of, yes, you've seen what's happened to the stock price. This after, of course, reports that Paramount is preparing a bid to buy all of Warner Brothers. And as I confirmed later yesterday, that is the case. Said bid could be coming as soon as next week. Don't expect it this weekend, but in the near term. Of course, the key question is going to be, what is the bid and how is it structured? At this point, there's no doubt in my mind, based on at least what I've been hearing, that it will have to comprise largely, if not almost solely, cash from Paramount, because the Warner Brothers board at this point probably not that interested in something that includes a good amount of stock of Paramount. A price, well, I mean, you can see what's happening in the marketplace and what's happened over the last day, obviously, given that enormous rise in the stock price yesterday, what seems to be followed today by another significant accretion of value in Warner Brothers. Could it be in the low 20s? Is that something that will get the attention of Warner Brothers board? Certainly it would seem to be if it is largely cash. But I've also had conversations that, listen, even if it was 25, but it was 50-50, which is not, I don't think, going to be the case, it's a no-go. So cash has to be the key here. Based on what I've at least heard, that would indicate that it is largely going to be composed of cash. Interesting move in Paramount shares, though, because if it's going to be cash, that's got to come from somewhere, doesn't it? And you're talking about two companies that are fairly highly levered, 3 times at Paramount, 3+ times at Warner Brothers. So really, how many turns of leverage could you add? Not that much, meaning Larry Ellison, most likely, and maybe some of his partners, Redbird, of course, one of the key ones, they're going to have to come up with a lot of cash. And how does that work? Well, you actually put the cash into Paramount and you get something for it, don't you? Either common or some sort of preferred. Either way, you are diluting Paramount shareholders significantly. Something that maybe was lost on people who were buying the stock yesterday. I don't know. Perhaps they're simply buying into the overall strategy here. But it would be potentially significantly dilutive given the amount of cash that would have to come into Paramount to pay for a bid that would get the attention, if not get approved by Warner Brothers board. Remember, Warner Brothers is moving forward right now with a split into its global networks business, which, by the way, will own as much as 20% of the other part of the business, namely streaming and the studio. That split expected to take place, let's call it April of next year. There's no forcing function here, by the way, were Paramount to come with a bid that Warner Brothers didn't like. There's no vote. There's no annual meeting. So they can say no without a seeming forcing function. Another key question would be, well, if you're Warner Brothers, don't you really have to at least go to what we call an auction if you get this bid, as seems highly likely in, let's call it, the next week or so? Do you have to check with Netflix? Do you have to check with Tim Cook at Apple? Do you have to check with Amazon and see? You guys have any interest in buying the entire company right now? We think there might be a lot of interest in you buying studios and streaming once it's a separate company 6 or so months from now. But would you really want to take on the cable networks right now? Unclear that that would be the case. And that may be one key reason why Paramount's moving now as opposed to waiting, where it might have to compete with the big tech companies in terms of that. So a lot of moving parts here, guys. I would defer as well to David Ellison, who I sat down with only a few weeks ago when they closed the Paramount transaction at Skydance, and his discussion about creating long-term value. Take a listen.
What we're going to do is restructure our business to run significantly more efficiently, and then we're really going to invest into our growth areas like studios and streamings and sports.
Right.
And I think what's important between my family and our partners with Jerry Cardinale and Redbird, we own 70% of the economics of this business. So we are focused on one thing, which is truly long-term value creation.
Jim, listen, with Larry Ellison's money, I mean, he's not a sentimental guy. You don't get as rich as he is by not caring about making good economic decisions, but, we'll see where they end up here.
Okay, so David, I'm looking at the Warner Media Holdings. I'm looking at all these different pieces of debt. They're all horrendous. If I were Amazon, I would say, well, you know what? we could really do a kill, or Apple. We've got the best balance sheet in the world. We just pay off that debt. We immediately become the #1 entertainment company. We don't really know how to do entertainment. We're using Time Warner for a lot of the things anyway. David, can't these companies pay much, much more and just decide, you know what, we want this, and we love Ellison, he's a terrific guy, but he can't be in our league?
Well, they could, of course, but at the same time, you are buying a company with cable networks right now, as opposed to waiting perhaps when the split occurs and you get what you really want, which is the studios and streaming business, if they actually want that. You don't want the cable networks. Do you move immediately to spin them off? Or announce a spin? Maybe, but even there's value that you're losing over the period of time to close the deal and then do a spin of said cable networks as well. So, it could be
David,
difficult to pull off. There's no, and by the way,
Amazon thinks long term.
They do. Listen, there's a lot of synergies, a lot of costs that will come out as a result of putting together Paramount and Warner Brothers, not to mention the streamers as well. There's a lot of money that can be saved. So there is some financing they can add. Even though they're over 3 times levered, let's call it, as a combined company, they could maybe add eternal leverage. But there's a lot of cost synergies coming out as well. You're not going to see that as much with the Apples or the Amazons or maybe even the Netflixes. And that's the interesting name here as well. Paramount's moving while it has the chance to
they're #1 in everything. They're number one in everything right now. We
Warner
know
Brothers.
that. That's why you can steal. Yes, you can steal it.
The studio is turned. It's having a great year. Their production for TV is very strong right now. They would say that, but what represents a steal now? I mean, really, low 20s all cash, mid 20s. I mean, we'll see. This board's going to have a lot to think about. Anthony Noto, Anton Levy, Faisal. I mean, all of these guys. Not to mention Malone's, not on the board anymore, but he's sort of emeritus. But he talks to Zaslav every day. He's still going to have influence here. He owns only about 1% of the overall stock of Warner Brothers. It's going to be fascinating. My questions continue to be, where are we going to end up in terms of price? It's got to be a lot of cash. I can tell you that right now, because something with a lot of stock in it is a no-go from what I'm hearing. Secondly, do they go to an auction? And actually, to your point, Jim, is there interest in buying the whole company from the likes of the names you just mentioned?
Well, I got to tell you, Carl, how many, a couple of weeks ago, we thought all these were worthless, right? Then we have Echo Star. We have this. I mean, Warner Bros. Discovery is one of the greatest shorts of all time, right? I mean, you just short it forever until the cows come home. Bad balance sheet. Who knows what's going to happen with TV? And then suddenly, maybe it's worth 25, Carl.
Well, there's the financing part, guys, and then there's the regulatory part. And, David, there's so much discussion about Colbert's cancellation and the 60-minute settlement and an ombudsman, new interview policies that face the nation, and whether that's trying to grease the wheels a little bit.
No doubt. I think there is a belief, Carl, frankly, that were this deal to actually be accepted by Warner Brothers Discovery, again, an offer that is yet to be made, but let's assume that that you would get the antitrust and regulatory approvals that you need for this deal. That's different than, for example, the expectations, perhaps, our parent company for at least a few more months, Comcast, in a very difficult position. Can't really do this, it would seem. By the way, you're going to make a bid for Paramount when you're spinning off your cable networks? That just doesn't seem to work. And then others, it's more of a question, Jim, in terms of the regulatory. But here it would seem that there is an expectation, if they, in fact, make a bid that is accepted by the Warner Brothers board, that they would be able to get it done. CBS and CNN come, there. I mean, there'd be a lot of pain to Carl's point as well in terms of where things end up, given those two news organizations, as Paramount shares sort of turn around a bit. Yeah.
Can a family company move faster than an Amazon, move faster than an Apple, move faster than Netflix? This is a family company.
Yeah, it is. You're right. It's controlled, as David Ellison just said. It's controlled by the Ellison family and, Redbird obviously there as well. Yeah, they can move quick. Listen, Larry Ellison can do whatever he wants. He's got so much money, but he could, he can buy the moon. But there's not a great economic return there. One would expect, I don't know, you tell me. Has he gotten more sentimental now that he's, 80 years old? I don't know.
No, he's not a sentimental fellow. No, I don't want anyone to even think that for a second. No. I mean, he's nicer than Alex Carr.
Well, then he's going to do something that makes economic sense in his opinion. And, you know, yes, they are investing for the long term. I don't have any doubt about that. You heard Ellison say it, you'd believe it. And maybe there's something else after this, if in fact they do get there. But it's going to be great to follow this, guys, over the next, let's call it, few weeks and see where we end up and what happens. It's kind of old media and fun.